Hello guys, and welcome to a new Wargame Red Dragon video today by me, Vulcan. In this one I have for you a 3 versus 3 on Bloody Ridge, and I'm going to be playing, of course, with the new Italians. As you can see, the game is underway and we're going to be diving straight into the action as VulcanHDGaming here on the left hand side is going to be advancing with his new Mangusta helicopters towards the front, supported by the A109 Recon helicopter. These Mangustas, they have Stinger air-to-air missiles. They're going to be coming up against the Z9AT190, which is another air-to-air Chinese aircraft. They do manage to shoot it down. Unfortunately, it does cost him his recon, but the Mangustas are both safe. Now, these Mangustas, very nice new helicopters, do come with the one front, one side armor. Those Stinger missiles with the 70% accuracy, as I already mentioned. They do get rocket pods. They do get a 20mm Vulcan gun on the front of them, which is very nice indeed. Unfortunately, some AA coming through there, taking down one of the Mangusta early on, and the Su-27 hanging about, looking for the shot onto the second one. Going to be diving in on that. Easy peasy. Su-27 does the job. But here comes a barrage of rocket artillery from the new Firos 25. These napalm launchers we'll be seeing in action throughout this game as VulcanHDG floods that left side with napalm. In the middle, in the meantime, you can see that I am going to be advancing my new units here. We've got the C1 Ariete, which is a very nice tank, has a fantastic gun on it, but lacks armor. Got a Centauro on the right-hand side. We've unloaded a Milan 2. I've got a Komsubin Special Forces unit in the front. Unfortunately, gets absolutely wasted by the amount of T-72s flooding my direction, but the automatic on the left-hand side is going to be getting in on the action. The Italian automatic does have more armor than the Danish one, so it's able to actually deal with these T-72s quite nicely, and is slowly but surely taking those out on the left-hand side. Unfortunately, a firing computer reset isn't going to be very helpful, but the C1 Arietes on the right-hand side continue to break down the infantry that Betz has sent towards me. We're going to be up against Betz's Czechoslovakian mechanized 1980s deck today in the center of this map. Meanwhile, VulcanHDG with his Italian deck is up against Vector's Red Dragons, and Andy on the right hand side, he's playing with a Japanese motorized deck up against Holly's Czechoslovakian national deck. So, nice matchup for me, of course. I do benefit from having the superior firepower in this situation, which is something that I feel like the Italians have a lot of firepower, but they don't have much armor. And so in most situations, particularly up against like heavy tanks that maybe the Red Dragons could field, the Italian tanks do suffer in ongoing trades, but they are very good at getting the first shot on target if they can. So in this case, our 65% accuracy, if we can get that first shot on target, then we can potentially win engagements that way. And you can see the C1 here just popping new units as they try and push forward. These poor infantry being ordered across the open in the OT-62s, and those things getting wiped out slowly but surely. So the Centauro going to be supporting the C1 Ariete. The Centauro, really nice wheeled, well-armed recon vehicle, very fast, with a good gun, lacking armor though, so you have to be careful not to let that get directly engaged by enemy tanks. It's more of just a support vehicle for your main tanks here. And these C1 Arietes, they're the 155 point big tanks that you're going to be getting access to as the Italians. Now, unfortunately, on the left-hand side, things don't go too well for VulcanHDG at the start of this one. The town, although it is absolutely soaked in napalm, currently has nothing in it. But here comes an Su-25 that's going to be looking to try and land some of these KH-25 missiles on my tanks. I do have the automatic in position. We also have the Spada. So that is going to force the Su-25 to leave for the time being. The Spada Aspide fires pretty quickly, which is really nice. But it doesn't have fire and forget missiles, so if a aircraft flies out of range, it will miss. But the automatic, fantastic anti-air vehicle. And after the start of this game, well, we're in a very, very good position. Unfortunately, I bet here losing a lot of vehicles at the start. So the Alpini waiting on the edge here. The Alpini in this game, they do have the Breda Folgore, which is actually a pretty nice AT weapon, 18 AP power at 1,400 meter range, so they're able to hold on the edge of this tree line. They could also be really good at holding on the edge of towns and such to find side shots potentially, or just continue to chip units at long range. The T-62 is trying to make a little bit of a push on the right hand side there, but they are going to get taken out by the C1, while the Centauro tries to deal with the Conkers that is getting missiles towards the C1. But more Centauro is going to be moving forwards. The C1 Ariete on the way. You can see that I brought up another automatic here and the C1 further back. And we've got a couple Stingers in that back town. We have managed to capture Kilo with my command vehicle. This is one of those nice fast jeeps, really good for capturing the backside sectors. Unless maybe it's like your spawn sector where you might want something a bit more tanky. But in this case, Conefelder's just kind of hidden a unit of command infantry on the backside of this hill in a less conspicuous position to help us out. So Su-25 on the right hand side there is going to get taken down. Really nice job by the Tansam short arrows of ND. And here go my Alpini. So just making a play across the open now with the Alpini. Trying to get some space in this tree line. Then I can support them with the big guns of the C1 and the B1s. On the left, B1 Centauros from the vehicle tab. Going to be used to engage the Fang Huabing. B1's now going up against T-62s. I don't believe the T-62s had the recon fire back there. But this ATGM going to be causing me issues. My Alpini, these guys are going to be pushing over to the right hand side, engaging the Modestralzi in there, trying to clean those out. These are really nice 20-point shock infantry with an 80% accurate rifle at this range. They more or less have 100% accuracy, so they can do a lot of damage very, very fast indeed. Alpini, you can see, are trying to chip away at the T-72. Now these T-72s, they're pretty cheap for 40 points, but they do have 11 front armor, which is really quite a decent amount for a 40-point tank. 25-point T-55 there, trying to run away, trying to pick that off with the B1. Do manage to get the shot on target. Nice thing about the Centauro is it has this 2,200 meter range gun, 2,275 meters, with a 65% accuracy, but more importantly, the 60% stabilizer, which means on the move, when it's going 110 kilometers per hour, it's still pretty damn accurate. Now the Camelina coming up against the Zalos Nisi. This is actually going to be pretty good in this scenario because it has a decent amount of armor, and the Zalos Nisi, they have like a kind of lacking AT weapon. They do manage to take that out with the help of the Modestralzi on the right hand side. Sedan currently getting its gun on target there to help things out, but here comes the first of the seed planes. The Su-7B manages to get a missile on target of my poor automatic, so that's going to be going down. And that was when I was reminded that in this game, seed is pretty effective. So we got that like 50% accurate 28 AP missile straight into the automatic. I was just checking that to see what the actual accuracy was, and well, whilst we do manage to shoot down a plane on the right hand side, that's two automatics down to those planes. And the automatics, you do want to keep them alive, as the Italians, they are an extremely good unit for both for dealing with ground targets as well as air targets. So Gunfilter slowly but surely working his way back into this town. He's brought up the Fanteria de Linea, the 90 version, which does have the Apalas. A 15-point infantry squad with an Apalas is really, really nice. So he's going to be making good use of those to take care of enemy armor at close range, whilst also managing to pick off any units that are left over from the napalm that is just utterly destroying this town. On the right hand side, Endy still pushing on the right, trying to make some ground into Charlie, but not having much luck at the moment. Other SU-7B hanging about on the back side there. Now I'm starting to bring up my supply. We've got these ACM trucks coming in, just trying to fix up the Ariete and resupply the Spada. Now ideally I should have had the Spada turned off, because I believe at the time I was kind of joking that it'd be unfortunate if that died. And well, here comes the SU-7B to make that happen. In these games, Warner included, do make sure to turn off your radar units preemptively if you know your opponent can bring seed. It is very important, because otherwise you just end up losing a lot of units for free. And these are just free kills that will build up and allow them to maintain air dominance throughout the game. Now, one thing that does suffer on the side of the Italians, I feel, is their lack of like a really good ASF. They do have the Tornado that they are able to use quite effectively, but against something like an SU-27, it's just so subpar. So the automatic here you can see is now turned off. SU-7B going to be coming over the top. I'm going to turn on the automatic. We're going to look to shoot that down with the help of a missile from the left hand side. SU-7B gets taken out. So that's a good kill for us, and that's basically what you're going to want to do with Radar AA in Wargame Red Dragon and also in Warno. Just turn it on when the enemy plane turns away, and that way you can still get those missiles on target, maybe shoot it down if you're lucky. Alpini still taking out more units for us. These OTs, just little half tracks hanging about. ZTZ 8528, a little bit more substantial with its 14 front armor. Might bump into my Alpini shortly. On the right hand side though, the Nanayon Shiki A's are continuing to help out with fire support onto the Visadkari. These are again cheap 35-point tanks. Just need some infantry support really to back those up and get into that town. You might notice that my artillery here just landed on a supply unit, and with that blowing up it seems to have killed the enemy leader, or at least forced them to move it. That's because I brought in these Semovente 105 mils, or 155 mil, sorry, M109s. They're just the classic M109, but they've got the Italian colours on them. Very cool indeed. Firing off shots nice and long distance. Going to be trying to hit this sector of the town as well to try and clear out those Visadkari. So a T-55 going to be moving back into the sector there. You might also notice on the left hand side I have managed to get my C1 and my Centauro further up, which is good because it means that I might be able to get a leader to contest Delta, if not just completely take that over. But now my C1 has bumped into a T-72 M2 Moderna, and Moderna is pretty difficult for my C1 to win against, just because the Moderna has significantly more armor. So my poor C1, it's trying to do a runner. SU-7B coming in again, taking out another automatic that I left on. And the Mi-25, it's looking to try and kill off my C1 with its A-to-Gem. It only has to hit one, and even though this only has like 16 AP power, still going to do that one damage that is required to kill that off. And that was pretty sad fate for that C1 that had done very well from the beginning of the game. Here we go on the left again with more napalm flying in overhead, saturating this left side. It was really, really helping Unfil to stay in this game. Those Firos 25s absolutely draining this fob. This 16,000 supply has already gone. M109's continuing to fire away. We've got my C1s now moving up to this tree line. And in the middle of this map, I've kind of done everything I need to, in a sense that my sort of role in this game in the center is to control Foxtrot. And it's kind of just the easiest way to do that is generally by using heavy tanks. I played this map a lot back in the day. I think the last time I actually made a gameplay on Wargame Dragon, like a video-wise, it was like 2 years ago. That's probably the last time I played it. But before then, the heavy tank sort of meta in the middle of this map was always the case. Using Challenger 2s or like T90s or like heavy T80s or something like that. Just to make sure you had a good sort of solid front line in the center, and then you just had to be wary that you weren't getting hit on the flanks. At the moment, Combs did a fantastic job, considering how badly it went for him early on. He's managed to completely take back this town, and he's now able to put pressure into Echo, which will continue to build up our points on the right hand side here. You see there's 23 minutes left on the clock. We're 150 points up. Over there 108. So artillery flying in both directions. Let's just have a look at this Sidam. Sidam is actually a really cool vehicle. Decent fire support against infantry. Really good at taking down helicopters. It's really, really fast at doing that. If an aircraft flies over the top, it can get a couple health damage in there as well, which will help you secure kills by your sort of longer range missile aircraft. Or not aircraft, your longer range missile AA. So yeah, really nice unit. Are there any others that I can show off today? In these Camelino Mark IIIs that I mentioned before, 3 front, 3 side armor at 5 points. Very nice fire support against infantry using their 50 cal. And there's also the Fiat here as well, which has that 60mm gun. This 60mm gun has fantastic rate of fire. Actually, this is the 20mm version, sorry. It does have good rate of fire against enemy infantry. I really like the 60mm version. I'll show that to you guys in another game. Or the Hawks taking down another aircraft. Gutai's trying to push forwards, but those bombs did land on target. Really, really rough. My Centuro on the left here did push up. It actually took out a Strela that was sitting here, the Strela 10M, also managing to do some serious damage to enemy infantry. So managing to support Cone Filter nicely. Not completely committing towards Delta at the moment, just because this town was causing me issues in terms of the location of the HGMs. And the biggest thing you have to worry about, I feel, as the Italians, especially when you're using a lot of armor like the C1s, and also the other tanks that they get, is side shots. Side shots are the absolute bane of this division. So you have to be very on point with your armor micro, and pushing into the open like this is going to make me extremely vulnerable to shots coming over from Charlie, shots coming over from the right side of this town, and so I wasn't forcing it just yet. So I'm actually going to be backing myself up now with a couple of the Firos 6. Now these are the little APCs with rocket launchers on them. We're going to be able to see those in action today. Very cool vehicles, very unique vehicles we don't get to see too often. And you can see that I am bringing up the M577 here now that I might try and use to get into Delta. So the best bet for me really is to try and secure the left side of Delta, as I mentioned before, to contest this. Here comes another Su-7B. My automatics are off. Ready and waiting. Su-7B just gets a little bit too close. Automatic, gonna smash that out the sky, and the Sidam, it flies straight over. So Su-7B going down there. Nicely done. So my cargo driving back to the fob, and you do have to manually move your supply backwards and forwards. It's nice in Warno now that you can select your like ACM. You could like right click the fob, it will automatically drive back to the fob the fastest way, and then you can just like shift right, like fast move back to the front line, and it will automatically go back, resupply and come back. Whereas in this game you kind of just have to manually park it nearby, wait and try not to forget about it and then bring it back. With the field also getting into position, for the C1s they're going to start to make their move. The plan being to get this M577 into the corner of that sector. But HDGM, after all my artillery, still alive, still putting pressure onto the C1. And I noticed that it actually came out of this building, which is why it was still alive. Because you can see this area has been kind of plastered by M109s, but this particular building was not. So that's going to be the next target, whilst the M577 tries to creep into the corner of that sector. Andy here having a bit of a hard time. His recoilless rifles, I'm sure, not really doing the job up against the T72. With the M577 being moved into this sector, it has forced bets to engage us. The T62 there manages to get the shot off just in time to kill the M577. But at least I'm able to clean up the T72 straight after. Yeah, it was a bit unfortunate the M577 went down there. That T62 with an absolute godlike shot. Centura are going to be parking up on the left-hand side just to make sure we have recon further up on this left side. And the C1s are going to maybe try and creep through here and get some shots into the T72s. But I do still need to be a bit careful with those. Centura still providing great fire support on the left-hand side. You can see that it has just leveled up to Elite. E5 flying overhead. We're going to be hitting that hard with the automatics. Also the J7H there going to be going down as well. But the B3 did do its job. Absolutely nuked this forest, including my Centauro. So my artillery now coming down here. Alpini trying to make a play across the open, but are being hit by the vehicles on the right-hand side. So you can see I've got quite a lot of these C1s on the front line now. And here go the Fyodovs on the side here, firing up at the Ginista. Doing a decent amount of damage. They aren't like crazy effective, you know, for 35 points, doing a decent amount of damage. C1's continuing to put pressure on the infantry now. Alpini ready to push in there, but the Zalos Nidze holding the line as well as they can. Komsobin gonna be able to get the Fogore on target of the Vidra. T72M2 though is certainly going to make things difficult on my right flank, and you can see the Su-25K coming in here with its missiles, and my lack of automatics left leaves my C1s very vulnerable. So the Aviat is trying its best to take on the T72 here. You can see the one shot from the T72 takes half the health of my C1, whilst my one shot, because it has only 21 armor, is not quite dealing the same damage. It's the biggest problem you have with these Italians. You just can't really take those frontal engagements. Su-25 still causing me problems, and the T-72Ms do find a side shot as I try to pull away from the Su-25 that was coming overhead. So yeah, we're in trouble. So I'm down to one C1 on the front line here. Both my automatics died in the process of that attack. And now there's a wave of T-72Ms and the T-72M2 coming in on my right flank. So as at this moment, I was worried that I'd messed up. Because we are in lead with our +2. Comb Filter's continuing to put pressure onto Charlie. I've held Foxtrot this entire time, so we are building a decent lead. But having lost that many of my heavy tanks in this center engagement, things are certainly going to get hairy. And the T-72s are going to continue their push forwards. Going to try and get the Centauro to get some cheeky shots in there, but the T-72 maintains line of sight long enough to get the job done. Auto cannon finishes off the Milan as well. So more and more of my stuff going down. I do have the Mangusta on the right here. That was mainly just covering the approach from this town. The Su-25 out again. I just don't really have anything to shoot it down, and ND's Hawks have been out of ammo for a little while, so they're not able to shoot at it either. The B5 on the left-hand side, that one's going to go down. That should be the last B5 dealt with, but did manage to blow up a lot of infantry in that town. Also crashed onto my M113s. Su-25, nice strafing run there. And Sam Short Arrow trying to hit the mark and not managing it. This thing, 50% accurate. Gonna get wiped out by that poor T-72M. The Munguska now coming across is gonna have to cover me off against these T-72s. Centauro also managing to find a side shot there, certainly helping out a lot. But as you can see, we have hit the 70% mark. My poor HGM system here did get taken out. This is basically an M113 with a TOW 2 on it. I was landing a few shots quite accurately throughout the game, but gets taken out at close range there by the enemy tank. So we've got another Spada Aspide moving into position. The Hawks are doing a run-up. We're going to need more tanks, so another C1 on the way. Bin actually managed to get quite far up here, which was nice, so decent artillery for us. And on the backside, Combs actually managed to get some recon around here. So is spotting the abundance of these 122mm artillery pieces. These are, I think, just Czech Gvozdikas. So Schumann actually managing to get the hit on target there, which is nice. Any of the tanks we can take out on the right-hand side is good. You can also see that I've now doubled up on the CV in the center, just to make sure that if one of them dies, we don't lose complete control of Foxtrot. Because there is still 11 minutes 35 on the clock. And with my push through the middle backfiring on me so dramatically, it has left me quite vulnerable in the game. We just want to make sure that the enemy can't see a way to victory. The most important point. The Hawk there not managing to hit the mark at all. Although the Stingers do manage to take down the Su-25, so that was a great kill. My artillery slowly trying to do damage to this tree line. We won't ask Andy why his 105mm artillery was so close to the front line. The C1's getting into position to take out the T-62. My Mangusta ready to pounce on anything that comes out of the tree line with its TOW 2. On the left-hand side, the Folgari and the Milan 2s taking care of the Chonma hose very nicely, very quickly. I was at this moment that we did notice the helicopters coming around the side here from Betts. Homefilter had brought up some CDAMs to cover that left side. But now we need to protect our rear, because this is where things can get pretty risky for us. If we lose too many of the commands, then there's a good chance that they'll be able to build up a lot of points very quickly. So I'm going to be trying to move my M109s away to save those from getting taken out. And I'm going to be bringing in my own SEADAMs to try and shut down these helicopters. So I managed to get shots onto the Mi-25 S-24. Take that down to 1 health. Unfortunately, it was just shy of finishing that off. And these two, they're just continuing forwards. The Centauro doesn't manage to finish off the Mi-25 either. The 50 cals of the M113s are struggling, although they are managing to stun it. Now these have both managed to take out the Commander Juliet, but thankfully Comefilter had another Fiat nearby. They are going to be finding my AR-76 that was hidden in this sector. So that is now putting them on a +4. My infantry is just going to continue moving towards the front line, as that was important as well. I do have the OF Mark III here. Unfortunately, gets taken out at close range, but these OF Mark IIIs, they're 65% accurate, 2,275 meter range guns on an 85 point unit. Actually pretty good. But you can see that we've also lost the leader on the right hand side. Thankfully, like, capping back Juliet does allow us to continue to bring reinforcements, and the SEADAM finishes off the last of the helicopters on the backside here. So now we're able to just get the commands back in and panic over on that backside. That could have been a really, really nasty flank for our team, but we managed to come together to stop Bets from killing too much. So T-72 is now pushing forwards aggressively in the center. The comps have been with that Folgeri, really helping with those flanking shots. C1s and B1s continue to engage these tanks. T-55 does manage to hit the Centauro. You can see it did half its health. Still needs to be worried about the vulnerability of the armor on the Italian units throughout this. Have been going to be trying their best to stay alive against those two T-72s coming towards them, as the Vidras are managing to get into Foxtrot. So this infantry that I did have coming up as reinforcements, the intention was to get them into this tree line so that I could deal with enemy armor at close range. But I'm going to be sending 2 of these units over to Gulf, because we need to set up some defense here at Gulf so that we can maintain the advantage. We're currently on 412 points. They are on 179. Comefilter's done a really good job of remaining sticky in Echo and basically making it very difficult for Vector to put a command in there. Because in Wargame Red Dragon, the way that commands work is you have to have a command unit stationary in a sector in order to capture it. You can't just like capture it and then drive out like you can in Warno. Su-22 coming in with the 2 1,000 kilogram bombs does take out my poor rocket vehicles. Does go down for it. Alpine 90 getting into position here. Go forward. Will absolutely mince these infantry. And we're going to get the M113s to help out as well. So that's going to stop them getting into Gulf. We've got a new command in here. They've managed to get their own command into... Actually no, I moved the M577 back on the left. I love the way I just explained that, and then I just like see my M577 moving there, so that's why it's not capping. But yeah, they, I believe, killed the one on the backside. So I was just moving the M577 there into a less precarious position, and now we're able to maintain the +1 again. So these Vidra 2s, they do have a 30mm on them, which can be very useful against enemy infantry, but C1, OF40, B1 actually managing to get a decent job done. And with that last push made by the enemy on the right-hand side, the flank around the back, Ollie's going to surrender. Vets will follow, and Vector will give us the game. That's going to be GG. And after 35 minutes and 17 seconds, we win the game. I had a KD after that of 4,000, 2 kills to 2,910 losses. So hopefully you guys enjoyed that introduction to the Italian forces. I think the B1s, they're very nice, but you do need to be extremely careful with them throughout the game. The C1s, they're really good at punching down, but when you get to a unit that costs like the same or more, then they really do start to struggle due to the armor differential. The automatics, really, really strong in the Italians. Just make sure that you turn off those radars for Seed. Seed is basically available in like every deck in Wargame with Dragons, so it's a lot more common. This C1 did pretty well, killing off a lot of chaff, as well as like a few T72s and T62s. Yeah, the B1s do perform very well against these kind of units. Alpini 90, actually managing to take out a couple of T72s themselves with the Folgore. And then the Semivente with the M109s, like these actually helped me dislodge a lot of like defensive units throughout the game. So that was really, really handy. But it mostly came down to the C1s in the center, mixed with the B1s and any units that really had the Folgore. Recoilless rifle. The Spadas, this one in particular did very well. SU-25, SU-27, Weibao and SU-7B. If you micro them, they can be exceptionally effective due to their rate of fire. But there you have it. Fun stuff. I really enjoyed that game. Hopefully you guys did too. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.